Texas. REACH's mission is to support safe and healthy choices vital to the well-being of our youth, families, and community. This show will guide you, educate you, and inspire you to be a part of the solution and to reach out and help make a difference in our communities. What began as a local movement in the city of Midlothian grew to include programs throughout Ellis County with only a few years and eventually expanded into neighboring Johnson County, Texas. And I am one of your hosts. I'm Sherry Phillips, the community liaison for REACH Council, and I'll let my co-host introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Vasquez. I'm the Mental Health Project Coordinator here at REACH across Johnson County.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nikki Bowman. I'm the Drug Free Community Coalition Coordinator.
It's a mouthful.
I know it is.
Hi, I'm Erica. I am our new coalition coordinator.
Absolutely. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a few announcements and everything to get started. I tell you what, we've got the Rise Mental Health Conference that's coming up on October the 8th. Ashley, you want to share some information on it?
Yes, so you can find the information about this conference on our Facebook page. If you would like to register, it is a free event so that we can make mental health more accessible to the community. It is from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We'll be having a variety of main session speakers, breakout sessions, vendors and resources, food trucks, raffles, a build your own toolkit, and
So much fun.
Yeah, so much fun. So that's happening on October 8th at Pathway Church here in Burleson. We also have a virtual option as well if you're unable to attend. And then another event that we have coming up is the Let's Talk About QPR. This is happening on September 13th at 6 p.m., which is a Tuesday. And this event is also free and accessible. And the point is just to provide free suicide prevention training to give everyone in our community the confidence and competence to help someone at risk for suicide. And the location for this is at the Burleson Fire Station or 250 East Hidden Creek in Burleson, Texas. And lastly, an event coming up is our Alvarado National Night Out on October 4th. It's a Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. And Nikki, do you want to kind of talk about that?
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. We are having it at the square. We're going to have someone come in and play acoustics. We're going to have face painting, airbrush tattoos. We're going to have the police department's going to be cooking pork sandwiches. Everything's free. We've got lots of vendors coming out. We're just pumped. It's going to be a 2-hour event just to get the community together and Alvarado's first national night out.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited about that. Well, I guess what we'll do is we'll talk about our topic tonight. So our topic this evening is creating a healthy mind and body post-pandemic. And we have a very special guest in with us this evening. And I'm going to let Erica introduce our guest tonight.
Hi, so with this evening, we have a very special guest. Her name is Sarah Herrera. She is with the Healing Collective. Sarah is a licensed clinical social worker with experience providing therapy services to students K through 12 and in higher education. She's currently a doctoral student at the University of Texas at Arlington with the research focus on student well-being. And she is also the co-owner of the Healing Collective, providing individual and group therapy virtually and through nature walks. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to talk to you about this tonight.
Yes.
I am too. The pandemic, it happened to all of us, right?
Yes, it did.
So, my perspective is probably a little bit more focused on students, but all of our health is so important. So.
I don't think we all realized just how much it was affecting us and everything. And then when we weren't ever, able to go anywhere, a lot of the trainings and stuff that we got to participate in, were regarding, self-care and things like that. And it really brought a focus to it. But, now that the pandemic is somewhat dying down and we're trying to get back to what our new normal is, we're realizing, how hard this has been on our students and our kids. So,
Absolutely.
So we're really glad to have you in here with us tonight. So do you want to kind of give us an overview of maybe the student mental health, especially post-pandemic, and what you're seeing?
Sure. So I think it's important to probably even start before the pandemic.
Okay.
We were seeing a rise in mental health concerns, K through 12 and in higher education. So more severe diagnoses. just overall general concerns of anxiety and feeling overwhelmed with just schoolwork. Because we always want our kids to do the very best, but sometimes that can be translated, or kids with their developing brains, sometimes they can translate that as I have to be perfect.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I saw pre-pandemic. And then as the pandemic was happening, all of that combined with just the trauma that we went through.
Yes.
We had, there are a lot of people out there who lost loved ones, and they were not just through death, but also, stripped away from friends, family. There was so much isolation going on. I have a niece that was kind of in her toddler years during that time, and she kind of struggled with social interactions, and so there were a lot of really important developmental things that required social interaction that a lot of kids weren't getting, and even all the way up to college students. I would work with freshmen in college who didn't get to go to their senior prom or didn't have a graduation, and were having a very unusual first year experience. So it has just been, as we're kind of getting back to that normal,
Right.
we're starting to see that there's still that underlying anxiety. It's still there. That has, even though the pandemic and all of the regulations and things, even though that has gone away, the mental health concerns are still there.
I mean, it's scary because if you think about it, we weren't in schools like our students where of course we still had it mandated where we had to wear the mask. But I don't know about you guys, but whenever the pandemic first started kind of slowing down and everything, I would watch like Grey's Anatomy or something, but the older seasons where they didn't have masks on, and my heart would start going really fast, and I would get anxiety because I was like, oh my gosh, they're not wearing masks, and it became our norm,
Right.
and so many things were different. So I really wonder, just with me dealing with something little like that, like the little things that they're dealing with that we don't even know about.
Right. Absolutely. It's a whole, and then also thinking about all of the wiggly 6 and 7 year olds that had to keep a mask on. And that there were a lot of, unknowns. And so parents really didn't have a lot of answers. And so as parents are trying to, struggle with what is going on with the world, that kids can definitely feel that, and it's nobody's fault. It's just, that's kind of what happened.
I think one of the main things my kids would come home and it was hard for them was social distancing at lunch, when that was their social opportunity, or recess not happening anymore. They were still stuck in classrooms. And if you think about that happened for a year to 2 years. Well, I guess half the year or whatever they were at home, and then they went back, and that was their life. How they kind of isolated themselves from socializing, and now they're having to go back and try to learn that and what's appropriate and how do you even do it. And then you take that with iPhones, or makes it even worse.
Right. And that was another problem, or another issue that we were seeing pre-pandemic anyways, is a lot of kids were getting social interactions just through a computer or their phone, which I personally believe any connection is good connection. And at the same time, we were kind of meant to be human interaction. We need that physical presence. I mean, even just being here with all of you in the flesh, like it would feel so much different if I was doing a Zoom call with all of y'all.
They're totally different.
Yeah,
shows.
it does. It just has a different vibe.
Yeah, we love it when we have our guests come in studio with us. It's a lot of fun.
So I was a junior whenever just talking about our school experiences, and during COVID, I was a junior. I had 2 years left of college whenever COVID started, and it was a big adjustment because the professors, everybody didn't know what was going on, obviously, and I feel like everyone was kind of freaking out in the school system, like our dean and then our professors and then the students, just not knowing when are we going back to class. We had all these, there's a lot that goes on at a university, all of the events, and then so we went from having it all the time to I remember we went on spring break, and then we just never came back from spring break.
And I knew it was going to happen.
And then it was like at least a year and a half later. Like, I don't think I had an in-person class again until my very last semester, senior year. So it was like 3 semesters virtual. And then that last semester almost just felt weird. Like, I got used to talking and seeing everyone through the computer. And I'm like, I almost don't know how to make eye contact anymore. I
Yeah.
don't know how to talk. Like, yeah, it was just a big adjustment. And I imagine that everyone kind of had some social anxiety going post-pandemic.
Absolutely. And I think that that's still very present. Again, just kind of going back to the quote unquote normal life. That also kind of means, okay, well, it's back to doing all of my extracurricular activities. It's back to making sure I get all A's. It's back to, doing all the things, for college students, doing all the things that are going to look good on a resume. And so again, we're just barely getting out of this. And so we have all that like residual kind of like trauma symptoms,
It's
essentially,
horrible.
and trying to go back to this way of living that may not even be as healthy as we thought it was.
Right.
I have a senior right now, and luckily the colleges are looking at things a lot different. So they are not putting most of the schools, like even like SMU, TCU. There's most of them are not requiring SAT or what's the other test that you say?
ACT.
ACT.
Yeah.
They're not requiring that, which is
That's
amazing.
good.
Just
Yeah.
because
Very good.
they don't want to put more pressure on our kids. They're also not looking at the social activities as much.
Yeah.
Before it was like a full circle.
Oh my
They wanted to
gosh.
see good grades, this and this.
Mhm.
But they're really more focused on the grades, of course, but then the essay. And they want the essay to be not what you think, but just something that really will just make it interested when they're reading to really find out what that youth, that student looks like. So I think that is nice that they're looking at it differently because these kids already have so much stress on their plates.
Yeah.
A lot of them, like my daughter was not good at virtual at all. So her grades just went, they tanked. And then to go back into the school, it's hard to get I finally feel like I see my kids motivated again. Last year, I don't even think the teachers were in it. They were all just kind of floating.
survive.
With good
Survive,
reason. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So I can't imagine how many kids are just dealing with all that. So I'm just glad that at least the colleges are taking that stress off.
Yeah. And I could see like there is a little bit of a shift. We're trying, I think a lot of higher education especially is starting to talk about how do we support our students, not just academically, but emotionally as well.
Yeah.
Because there's research, study after study that says mental health has a significant impact on grades.
Right.
And so if a student is struggling with emotional wellness, it's very likely that they're also going to be struggling with school.
Do you tend to find that the students are how are they trying to cope with their stress and just mental health stuff in general?
Sure. That's a great question. It really varies. And I think it also depends on how much support they have. So for example, some kids kind of, what we would call acting out. Sometimes that's the way that they cope. I remember when I was a school social worker at the elementary level, I remember I was in a kindergarten class and there was a kiddo that was coloring and he started to kind of color out of the lines and he started crying. And I asked, well, why are you crying? He says, well, I'm coloring out of the lines. And he like picked it up and tore it up. And he was just so ashamed of himself. And so it starts so young. We kind of hear all of these messages. And so there are ways that people are coping that might not be as healthy, kind of like that. But then also, with nonprofits and community outreach, we are kind of having more conversations about mental health. And so I am having in my private practice, I'm having people come in, young adults, teens come in and say, I just really felt like I needed to talk about something. And sometimes parents were supportive, sometimes parents weren't, but either way, they just said, I needed to do this for me. So it's kind of a range.
Can you
That's
tell
real
us
good,
a little
though.
bit about your practice? And
Yeah. Oh, sure.
I know. I saw the name and we kind of skimmed over it, but I'd love to hear more.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I started a private practice in October of 2021. So it's fairly new. I started it with a fellow PhD colleague, Craig Keaton. He's Dr. Craig Keaton now. I'm very proud of
Aw,
him.
that's awesome.
And so hopefully I'll have that doctor in a couple months. But
Wow.
we will see. Fingers crossed. But anyways, so we just kind of were, we were having a lot of conversations about how the mental health care system is working and how it's not working. And so we wanted to create a private practice where we got to kind of do things our own way. So we, offer sliding scale. We offer nature walks because we also know that sometimes sitting, I'm just like staring at you. That can kind of be intimidating for some people under fluorescent lights. And so we offer things like nature walks and getting outside because we also know that the body or your brain is just as much part of your body as any other organ.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So
That's awesome. Okay, so
everything's
where are
been
you
going well.
located?
So right now, I do virtual
Okay.
and nature walks like throughout the DFW area. So I actually don't have
That's amazing. I was about
Um,
to ask. That is so cool.
my own
It is
office
cool.
yet. I mean, the goal, I'm still in a doctoral program. So the goal is once I graduate, I'd love to start expanding and have an office one day. And the dream is to not just have an office where it's just the four walls, but also have a little piece of land where we can incorporate like gardening and just all kinds of different activities.
That's
Because
awesome.
again, we're the Healing Collective and we want to engage as many people as possible in that healing. And we also recognize that healing does not look the same way for every single person.
So you do sliding scale insurance too, or just cash pay?
Just cash pay.
Okay.
But we are also, there's a website called openpath.com. And that is a registry for therapists who offer sliding scale. So it's kind of when you go on to that, when you sign up for that to advertise,
Mhm.
you're committing to saying if you have any clients that come this way through that particular website, that you're saying you will not charge them over $50. So yeah, I mean, that's part of why I wanted this private practice. So, there are people who do pay full price, and I am so appreciative of that because it also helps me
Right.
give back to people who may not have had access to mental health care.
And I think that's a big thing right now because I think a lot of people, that may struggle with anxiety or depression may not look at that as being, a mental health issue,
Mhm.
which, I think a lot of times when people think of mental health, there's a stigma around, that topic. But I think everybody at some point in their life has probably struggled with some sort of mental health issues, whether it is, anxiety or depression or just stress in general.
Absolutely. And, growing up in Johnson County, I grew up in Alvarado, Texas. We didn't really talk. Shout out to
Big A.
to Big A. We didn't really talk about mental health. And that's just kind of part of our culture. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just kind of the way that I grew up. And
Mhm.
it wasn't until my 20s when I had my first panic attack that I said, oh my gosh, what is mental health? I didn't even know that was a thing. And so I think so there are people out there that are going to have a mental health diagnosis, but for the general population, we're going to go through all kinds of struggles, life transitions, deaths in the family, loss, divorce, getting a new job, getting fired from a job, all of those things, just things that happen in life. Very natural, normal things. Sometimes it's just nice to kind of talk about those things out
And,
loud.
and feel like assured and normal and that it's
Validated.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there a certain age group that you primarily like to work with? And
So I always say, come as you are. I welcome every age. That's what I'm so grateful for my social work experience before this because I worked K through 12. I've worked with, people in nursing homes. So, I always say like I see people ages 3 to 103.
That's amazing.
So, I really just, enjoy talking to people and connecting with people. But with that being said, I think I do have a special niche for teens and young adults who are kind of going through that life transition.
That's cool. I wanted to ask because I just read something this week, and I think it may have been a story that I saw on Facebook, but it was talking about like when parents pick up their kids from school, and they're told that their kids had an awesome day and everything went really well, and then they get in the car or they get home, and it's like they go nuts. And so they were talking about how kids need to be able to kind of decompress. I know that a lot of us as adults, we come home and we just want to kind of wind down a little bit from our day. And so, and that's part of our self-care. And so we've got to look at it, at our kids. I mean, they're going to have to decompress and everything like us adults. And so we may, see them maybe act up or maybe misbehave or something like that. And it's their way of, they feel safe at home and they can do that, where at school that, they're told they have to behave or, things happen and things like that.
Be quiet.
Yeah. And so they have to have a way of being able to do that. And so I thought it was really interesting how they said, you need to basically acknowledge the child and let them go through those processes, to be able to, decompress on their own.
You think about it going through, like you said, the pandemic, and a lot of what our work didn't stop. It just didn't look like it did before. We weren't in the schools like we were. There was no events for us to be at to try to reach the community. So we still had funding. So a lot of what we did were virtual trainings, and there were a lot of self-care trainings. And I guess everything happens for a reason, because I think the pandemic changed my parenting. It helped me not look at everything as a to-do list and that it's black and white and this is how things have to be done with my kids. I learned more to be, I think, a little bit more patient and to listen more to them. And I think another thing that I'm seeing as teachers are entering the professional world, the younger ones, they're coming from this kind of thinking as well. So I think that they teach our kids a little bit differently as well, which sometimes we're like, the kids are getting away with this or this, but it's also maybe they're going to be a lot more healthy than what we had to go through with the teacher. How our teachers, they were a lot more strict. And you say, gosh, if y'all had teachers back like we did, or like our parents said, but
and then maybe you would also have a lot of anxiety afterwards.
Right.
And it's not anything to me, I don't really think about it as a good or bad. It's just that's the way that it was. And there were things that worked and there were also things that didn't work. And so I think being able to, like you said, be more patient with your child, like I always say that every behavior is just, it's a way of communicating. And if our kiddos, we have to accept that our kiddos' brains aren't fully developed. And so they're not going to be able to say, hey, I had a bad day. Let's talk about this. They might come home a little bit more fidgety, or they might come home and be a little bit more distant. But either way, they are communicating something. And so we as adults have to kind of tune into that and be a little bit more patient. It's almost like speaking a different language sometimes, right?
And I mean, and a lot of the times too, they could just be hungry.
Yeah.
And are we even, I remember before, I don't even know if I would be like, okay, everybody, y'all go do this. Let's eat. Let's take 30 minutes and not just start being the mom manager of the home and not even say, oh, that's probably what because they're totally different kids after that, just like we are. We get,
I mean, who wants to come home and like instantly start doing chores and do your homework and put up your bag and they
None
need
of
that
us.
time. And surprisingly, when at curriculum night the other night, they said that they're not pushing homework.
Oh my gosh, our school's crazy. My kids go to STEAM Middle in Burleson. It's homework every night.
Wow.
And I love that they said they weren't going to do homework,
amazing.
because so many parents seem to be so busy, and
It's
and
stressful.
Now, like sometimes they have to work multiple jobs just to keep things going at home, or every kid is in all these sports or all these extracurricular activities that we feel like they need to do.
I was just thinking that you were saying that there's beneficial things from how we were raised in the past. And one of them that came to my mind, like our kids, they might be getting parented differently and maybe we're a little bit more trying to be aware of mental health, but we also were outdoors a lot more. So it's there's like, There's just different things with different times. We were getting a lot of vitamin D, and we're
Mhm.
interacting with the kids in our neighborhood or playing out on the
And with
farm.
nature too.
Yeah, and
feel
that's so huge. And now the kids are not getting that at all.
Mhm.
So you can kind of see that can cause depression, a lot of screen time, and
Absolutely. And then, again, I think every school district is different, obviously, with the homework and things, but it does make, we have to, now that we're going through a post pandemic, we have to think, what are our priorities? Is it the homework, or is it maybe just sitting and eating dinner with my kid for an hour and having a connection with them?
that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to be going to our commercial break here in just a few minutes, and when we come back, let's talk about some of the things that you see as far as some of the concerns that kids might have, and let's kind of go over some of that and see where we are. So please stay tuned. Come back to us after the break as we're going to continue this conversation. And
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
You're listening to JoCo Community Radio.
welcome back to the second half of the Reach Across Johnson County segment on JoCo Community Radio.
JoCo Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 365 on TuneIn Radio Network. To listen or watch, simply go to tuneinjoco.com to choose where and how. The JoCo Community Radio app is now available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more on jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Patriot Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep, Nona Reed, at 844.tex.hail, 844-839-4245.
Job. Okay. Well, I know that when we went to break, we talked about when we came back. Maybe you could give us some examples of some concerns that that students might have right now.
Sure. So I think the first and foremost is just readjusting, right? Like there was that struggle of virtual, and Nikki, you were saying that some of your kiddos struggled with grades. And so, just kind of readjusting to those expectations again, and finding that motivation again is a huge one. But then also just again, the average student is going to probably feel a little bit of pressure to be the best on the basketball team, or be the best in in whatever academic or extracurricular activity. And so there is that one of the biggest things that I see in my private practice and even just before working in schools is that idea of perfectionism, that I have to be the best. I have to do everything correct. And if I make a mistake, then that means there's something wrong with me. And I know it's really heartbreaking to hear that from like, you know, an 8-year-old, but it starts that young. And so I would say that's probably the biggest concern that I end up talking with kiddos is, you know, whoa, where did that come, that
I
message
feel like a
come
lot
from?
of it, and I'm going to be honest, from parents, because I think that
Mm.
I'm one of those parents that was me, where I want this. Why is it not a 90 or above? Why? I don't care
Yeah.
if you have till Monday. The due date on here says yesterday. You know, those kinds of things. And it's just, I was just pressure. And finally, I was like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And when the kids are getting that when they're younger, and I don't really, gosh, my twins were younger when my daughter was probably going through that when I was that mom. So it's hard to look back and be like, that wasn't me, but I think it was.
No, I get
I'm
you
sure there's
too.
some kind of balance
Yeah.
between the two.
I mean, I feel like I was the same way. Like, oh, you know, a B, why didn't you make an A this time? Like, you know, but just like we're not perfect, our children aren't perfect, and we
Yeah.
sometimes have unrealistic expectations.
I do think, though, we can look at the benefits of what the pandemic has done. It has made us slow down some.
Mhm.
You know, even with work and not having to drive in rush hour and be in an office every day from 8 to 5. How many offices now are like, wow, this was working from home, and our employees were actually getting more done, and they're happier, and their mental health is better, then their marriages are better,
Mhm.
then their children are healthier. I mean, it's a lot has happened with the pandemic, and also that people are seeing that life is short.
Mhm.
And they've seen so many lives have been lost, that they realize, why are we living like this, the dollar for dollar every day, whenever there's other things that are more important.
Also, I think that due to the pandemic, we've become more aware of mental illness, and because a lot of people started experiencing anxiety, and it just became more normal to talk about
Right.
because of the
Mhm.
pandemic. So that's something that if there was one good thing that came out of the pandemic, I do feel like it's more people are aware.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree. It's a great time to, even if you were kind of, you know, living day by day, just kind of in the grind pre-pandemic, like there's still, I think it was proof that there's still an opportunity to make changes in your life. And I'm not here to say like everybody should just quit their jobs and do nothing all day, because we all have life. We have responsibilities, just like kiddos have responsibilities. So I think it's completely okay to have expectations for your kid to pass classes, right? Like we want all of that to happen. But like you were saying, Ashley, about the balance, that it cannot be all about work. Because if it is all about work, then then you kind of miss out on the rest of life. And that's kind of what we were accidentally, unintentionally telling our younger generations, like work,
Yeah.
but you don't get to enjoy the fruits of that labor. And so part of, you know, moving forward is saying, still having high expectations for our kids, but also saying there is so much more to life, and there's so much more to enjoy.
And just feeding them that confidence and watching that child bloom,
Yeah.
rather than telling them all the wrong things that they're doing. What about actually recognizing the good? Because they all have it. Sometimes it's harder to find than others, but
Right.
you know, it's in there, and there's good. And I mean, I can just think of some of the teachers and the kids that they've had, but I guarantee you they'll never forget those students.
Yeah. And some kids just aren't the best or the greatest at school.
Yeah.
That's not their thing, and that's
Yeah.
completely okay. You know, they're going to grow up to be amazing, you know, musicians, even like trade, like electricians, mechanics. Like we don't need every single person to have a PhD. We need
I am starting to notice that when we were growing up, you know, it was college. Now, even to myself, and I've got 3 kids, and of course I want them to go to college for that experience and just to build those relationships. But I'm not the same as it's to get a job, because guess what? You can roll out, become TikTok famous or something, and
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean, and be making
Yeah.
millions, and the people that
I
are making
know.
40,000 a year. I mean, it's crazy.
I know, well, trade schools have gotten to where they've made a comeback and are getting really more
Mhm.
popular, and they're not quite as expensive as going and having
Oh my gosh, yes.
You can make-
university and things like that, and still make
Well,
some
and then
really
the
good
schools
money.
are so expensive. It's
Yes.
crazy that,
so
you know,
you're crazy in
I'm
debt.
just seeing all the different, the kiddos coming out and their parents didn't do this or that, and they're just paying all of these hundreds of thousands of
Mhm.
dollars to these
Okay,
schools.
right here.
Yeah. And why are they still charging all this money for books?
Oh, girl.
Like,
That-
really?
that's a whole other radio
That is,
hour.
I mean, I used to get mad whenever I was in school, and this, 20 something years ago, and I would go in $100 math book that,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, why? And then the next say I would never pass that math class and I would have to take it again. And then they would bump it up
Switch out the
to
book.
edition number 9. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
what have you changed?
There's a specific one. Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
then you would go trade that book in to get the new one, and they would give you $5 to go. It's crazy.
Well, and that's, you bring up such a good point that, with our college students, financial barriers are a
Yeah.
huge impact on mental health.
Yeah.
And, I think the younger generation is starting to say, what are my priorities? My wellness is a priority.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go to college. I don't
Yeah.
know if I want
Wanna-
to take on that financial burden. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Agree.
Gosh, I had something on my mind and I was just about to say it. Oh, another thing is there's all these job signs out for our youth, like, hiring this, hiring that. Well, like my niece, she's went and applied at all these different places, and I don't know what's going on, if the people in there just aren't doing their job, but no one's calling back. And that's
Mhm.
got to be stressful for these kids who are trying to get out there and get their first jobs.
Mhm.
And of course, they're needing the jobs probably for their homes because their parents, are having electric bills like $800 and things like that. I mean, it's nuts.
Mhm.
So I don't even. It's hard because I don't see when it's going to stop where you see all the signs and say that nobody's working yet. I hear all the time about people trying to find work.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the other day, I was in the Whataburger line in Denton because I teach at UNT. And there was like a college student he was pretty much the only person working there. And I was just thinking to myself, like, okay, you probably just got home or you probably just went from class, rushed to this job. And now, like, there's all these other stresses, but you need this job.
Yeah.
There's
That was my life as a waitress in college. Yes, I have like horror stories of me and one other server managing the whole restaurant after a full day of classes, and I'm like, I do not have the energy to do this till 11 p.m.
right.
Yeah, it's hard. And then, like you said, the financial burden, it is a lot for those high school and college students.
Can I say something though? I feel like everyone should be a waitress or a waiter at one time.
I agree.
Just because if
Any
you
kind of
do
public
this,
service.
it's
Public
what the
service.
service industry.
Mhm.
You just treat people differently.
better.
Like you
Yeah.
don't get as angry.
You have
You
more respect.
give them,
You see them more as people instead of your servants.
It's nothing makes my husband more upset than if we go to a restaurant and with like say other friends or something and someone's like rude and he's like, we're never going out to eat with them again. Just
Yeah.
because it's how you act with the
Yeah.
waiter. Imagine any other situation.
Well,
But
that's true.
Well, something I noticed and I don't know if it was in all fields, but for some reason in healthcare, I feel like so many people have gotten more rude
mhm,
or
Yes.
feeling entitled.
mhm.
And that was a real issue for me that I feel like took a
Yeah,
real
I mean,
mental-
she's seen that. That's one of the reasons why we got her at Reach is because of how ugly people were being, just going to the nurse and the doctor's office and that kind of thing. So you teach at UNT?
I do. I
So
teach
how-
social work students.
Awesome. Okay, so
Awesome.
what are you seeing from the students? I would love to kind of hear about that.
Well, in terms of just what their concerns are,
Just
or
their concerns or even
Yeah.
their day-to-days and what their lives are looking
day-to-day?
like.
So when I was in undergrad, which was about 10 years ago, I had a lot of friends who didn't work, and we just kind of like lived on like financial aid for a hot minute,
Mhm.
and we were fine. But as I was talking with students the other day, I always like to ask in my class the first day of school, what helps you learn and what gets in the way of your learning. And the things that were getting in the way, the answers they were having was time management. Not only do I have a full-time job, and I'm going to school full-time, a lot of kids, well, I say kids, but also
That's what I said.
Adults.
That's me too.
Yeah.
but a lot of people have families, and so we're starting to see a shift in what higher education looks like and who's going to school. Like we said, the
Mhm.
younger generation is kind of taking a step back, and other generations like millennials, Gen X, are going back to school. And so we're seeing a lot more people with families. And so, when we also have to kind of shift the way how we think about higher education too. Because, 10 years ago, professors would assign me all kinds of different things and, write this 8 to 10 page paper and all this other stuff. And now I don't see, I have to kind of readjust my expectations because it's a different time, as a different population.
That's interesting. Well, let's go ahead. I want to talk about some of the signs of mental health concerns. Can you share with us, how can you tell if your child is struggling with mental health?
That's a great question. It really depends, right? So some of the more obvious things that you might be able to see is a shift in behavior. So if your student or your child is, on the football team and all of the AP classes and all of that stuff, and all of a sudden they're taking a step back and saying, I don't want to do these things anymore. A loss of interest in things that they once enjoyed, that's a huge sign. Them becoming more isolated and more distant, maybe focusing too much on schoolwork and not talking to their friends because they feel like they need to produce and make sure all of this stuff is done. But it also could be on the other side of the spectrum where people are engaging with their with friends a little too much, and they're spending a little too much time out of the house.
Okay.
Whatever it is with it really comes down to being in tune with your kids
Okay.
and knowing their own personalities, and seeing if there's any kind of change. But again, there could be loss of appetite, maybe eating a little too much as well. Like, again, everybody's bodies are growing at this time, so it really depends on the whole context. There's not just one thing. It could be it's a lot of factors all at once.
But like
Okay.
things that are out of the norm for
Out
that
of the norm.
child.
Yeah. And then also there are some kids who just kind of tend to struggle in silence. I know that I really enjoyed getting all the praise for getting straight A's in school and, being in student council and all of that stuff. And so anytime I had an issue, I just really kind of kept it to myself because I didn't want anybody to see that there was anything wrong. Because I don't know, as a kid, I just kind of felt like I don't want to upset anyone. And I think a lot of kids feel that way.
Mhm.
Well, I think we didn't learn appropriate or healthy ways to deal with things,
Or
like
talk about
or
them.
like my daughter. Whenever we experienced COVID, she was in student council. She was straight A's. She was this freshman years when the pandemic hit. And then all of a sudden, I noticed that she wasn't showering. Sorry for saying this. She was, watching just Netflix constantly because what
Yeah.
else was there to do? Really,
Mhm.
families weren't even letting, your best friend come over. It was
Mhm.
still just nerve wracking. And we were all kind of doing that as
Right.
parents too. So we were allowing it. But
Mhm.
then I noticed that whenever the things started needing to get back to the rhythm of how they were, she was still the same.
Yeah.
It was hard to get the focus back. She really didn't care. There was no motivation, but it's just like what you're saying. So some of the things that I tried to do and it actually really worked was I got her to start working out with me and going to the gym.
Yeah.
She might not have wanted to go there, but when we'd leave, just that adrenaline and stuff made her a different
Absolutely.
kid. Those kinds of things. And then I let her go talk to someone and have therapy because it's okay. But I think whenever we were younger, we didn't have that. No one said, Nikki, go work out. My mom didn't take me to the
Right.
gym. Therefore, I ate my feelings, like,
Same,
or would
same.
drink and,
Mhm.
as a teenager.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes when you go through things, you want to parent differently. So that's what I was, that's your worst nightmare is to think that your child might do the things that you maybe have done. So
Mm.
there's just so many. What are some other things that parents can do if they are seeing some of that stuff?
Well, I would say, Nikki, what you did with the gym, not only is it like the chemicals and like the adrenaline and the dopamine and all that stuff, it's also the fact that you as a mother noticed something, and you said, I need to have a better connection
Mhm.
with my child. And so it wasn't just telling your kid go work out
Right, I
alone.
did it with
You
her.
did
Yeah.
it with her. And I think
Yeah.
that is a key thing to do. When you notice that there is a shift in that energy, you need to tune in. You need to check
Because
in
they
a little
want
bit
that
more.
relationship with us.
Yes.
They just don't want it where we're down their backs. You
Right.
know? I mean, it really did switch. It flipped our whole relationship
Yeah.
where
Probably
it's
gave
different.
you a good opportunity to be able to talk to her
Yeah.
one-on-one.
Yeah,
and
well, just
have
being
that
in there
interaction.
laughing, us trying to do things, and the trainer telling us what to do, and just
Yeah.
us doing those things. It was a lot of fun, and it was great. And I did that right before COVID, and then we did it again. But I was making sure I thought the music was going. But yeah, so I think that it was definitely something. But I know there's not all parents are going to want to go do that. That's why I was like,
I
so
mean,
what?
not working out,
Yeah.
but I think in some way, just reconnecting with your kid. Because again, kids develop so much faster than we do as adults.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
once we get adulthood, we don't really change too much often.
Mhm.
And so every couple of years, it's almost like getting to know a new person. And
It
so,
is.
yeah. And yeah. And so it's not just about, maybe you had some really great memories when they were 6, but now that they're 8 or 9, or maybe even 15 or 16, let's reconnect again. Let's talk a little bit more, and building those foundations, whether it's, going and working out, or making setting an intention of, we're going to have family dinner on this night, or I will make a commitment to go to your football game, or whatever it is.
And keeping those commitments.
Keeping those commitments are so important, not just for just knowing that you're going to show up for them.
Right.
That's so much. That is everything to them.
Yep.
And then then you're also setting the foundation for when something does come up. Maybe they are thinking about drinking, or maybe they are struggling with mental health, that they feel comfortable to talk to you, because you've set that foundation. If you haven't set that foundation, then that kind of opens the door for secrecy and talking to friends about things, which is, it's so important to have friends, but also sometimes they don't give the best advice.
Right. and it is
go
so
ahead.
important, because I think some parents, they think because they're so strict, or they've got their kids on lockdown on their iPhones and all of these things, the kids know that I get it if they've broke your trust, but if that hasn't happened yet, you want them to be able to come to you. And when they come to you about something that sometimes isn't easy to hear about, because you're like, what? You still have to talk to them calmly and listen. Really, it's such a big thing, is listening and not making it where you're talking the whole time,
That
I
Nikki,
struggle with that.
that's like the number one thing that, when I think a lot of times when kids are, they come to therapy, I think sometimes parents have that perspective of like, go and talk to my kid. That's what's going on. But really, I end up talking to the parent a lot more.
Right.
Because
I wondered about that.
Oh yeah, it happened to us.
Yeah, because it's like, there's only so much that I can do as a therapist when it comes to kids, right? Like I only see them once a week. You see them every single day of every minute, pretty much. And so how can you also change that perspective and meet them halfway? Because they, obviously there might be some things that your child needs to work on, but you also need to be the person that's guiding that, not necessarily me.
And not to get offended when things happen in therapy, like you're being told on,
Yeah.
I remember in my home, after the therapy for my child, if some like a week or two, that therapist would ask me to come in and we would discuss certain things. And sometimes it was really hard for my husband to hear it. He would just get upset. And I was like, it's not about you.
Yeah.
Like you can't tell someone how they're feeling.
Right.
And sometimes, sometimes men just only see things one way, and they don't understand that we are valid and able to have our feelings just as our kids are.
Right.
And if they feel a certain way, even if we didn't mean to do that, they still feel that way. And we need to understand that, because kids are so sweet. And if you just tell them I'm sorry, or that I do understand that that's how you felt, it goes miles. Oh my goodness. Because some of them, like one of my twins just loves, if you just tell him that he's heard, total different behavior.
Validation.
Yes.
We as as adults, we sometimes can really easily get into that mindset of, I know best, I know what you need to do. And if you're talking with your kid about right and wrong, they kind of already do know what's right and wrong.
Yep.
They just need to be validated, and validated in the struggle of choosing what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And even saying, like, oh, stop crying. It was just a Pokemon card. Well, to
But-
them, that was
Mhm.
important.
And
Yeah.
that's like, I think we forget that kids are experiencing these emotions for the very first time sometimes. So if like a Pokemon card is a big loss, that can be just as much of a loss if you think about the loss of a job or the loss of something really important to you as an adult. Like they're experiencing that feeling for the very first time.
Mhm.
And so we need some time to
So yesterday we got
used to it.
home, and those you can get them at Six Flags. Those poop hats looks like
Oh,
poop on your head.
emojis. Yeah.
Well, whenever I was getting ready yesterday, I let one of our French bulldogs out, and she wasn't with me while I was getting ready. And I come down the stairs, and she had demolished one of my twins' poop hats. And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be serious." So I pick him up in the car. That is exactly what I mean. He lost it and was like,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna kick her when I get home." And I was like, she probably really thought she was defending you, because that is something that's very odd. And I mean, so yeah, you don't understand why they're
Yeah.
gonna lose it over that. It's so funny.
Well, I think it's been just important to make myself available to my teen, because
yeah.
I didn't know kind of, how to talk or if he wanted to talk. And so I've found kind of a habit that if I was in the kitchen cleaning,
Mhm.
everybody else was in bed, and I'm in there, he would come in there and start making conversation. So then I made it a point
Mm.
to make myself available, be in there doing something, make myself available where he can come in there and feel like he can just open up a little.
I know we had that too. It seemed like when it got close to bedtime or something like that, even as my kids got to be teenagers and everything, it was like we would kind of, me and the kids would compile into a room and just kind of talk about stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like, nobody really wanted to go to bed yet, but it's like, okay, I mean, we talked about all kinds of stuff. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes we hear things that we don't necessarily want to hear. But I mean, I'm really blessed that my kids felt comfortable enough to talk to me, and that
They
we
want to
had
be able
that.
to talk to us. I know they do. If you're building that, but you have to have a relationship with them.
Mhm.
You can't expect to never really talk to them or do anything that they want to do, and then think that they're going to come to you and want to discuss anything else because they don't feel comfortable.
And that's something that I hear from my adult clients, is that they wish they had that foundation.
Yeah.
That and so those moments that maybe don't really feel important to y'all,
Mhm.
like those are the things that, I mean, if we all think back on our childhoods, it was more of the moments that we had those strong connections with our parents that we remember, not necessarily all the lectures and the talks.
Right.
The safe spaces.
It's
The
like
safe
little
spaces.
things. I remember my mom just giving me money for my prom dress. And I remember like all my friends going with their moms. And my mom wasn't even thinking, like she thought giving me, plenty of money would be perfect. And I remember just being like so like sad over that. But
Yeah.
that was like me. But I didn't know how to say, Mom, I really wish you would go with me, because I know she would have if I had voiced that. But it's sometimes we just like our kids, they don't know how to say things. So we as parents and adults have to realize that that's what they're wanting, is those
Right.
relationships and those little things to make an effort on what they're wanting to do.
And we can still learn to do that. So I mean, if you're not currently doing that, it's not to say that you can't. You
Yeah.
can actually
Right.
work on that. Well, I know we're getting down into the last minute or
It's
so,
so crazy.
and I wanted you to share your contact information. So if somebody wanted to reach out, share your website and things like that.
Absolutely. So I am available at the Healing Collective. My website is thehealingcollectivedfw.com. And then my email is thehealingcollectivedfw@gmail.com. And I'm always happy to talk.
That's awesome.
I'm going to add it whenever we get off the
Okay,
show.
perfect. So it'll show up in our streams. Well, thank you so very much for coming in. I know we'd love to have you back at another point, because we were talking about mental health and things like that. But I even got to thinking about recently with the the things that happened at Uvalde, and it's been in the news,
Yeah.
how even that could possibly, affect our kids and things like that.
Oh,
so,
I know all of them. I was just
Yeah.
thinking.
So we need to have you back.
and I would love for maybe to come to our mental health conference.
Oh, gosh, that would be
well,
great.
thank you for inviting me. Eric
Yes.
has already. It's on
Oh,
October, right?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, are you
yes.
going to come?
Oh, I'll be
Awesome.
there.
I've been doing my job.
Yes.
Yeah,
networking.
you have. And again, I'm going to repeat that we have a mental health conference coming up October 8th.
Yes.
Please let
For
me
free.
for
Yeah.
free, and it's going to be amazing. And there's going to be free T-shirts, food trucks,
Free canvas bag.
free canvas bags, and just oh my
A lot of
goodness,
good information and tools to be able to help your mental health. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you next week.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, JOCO Community Radio. At Romika Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs, and if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logoed designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Romika Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion, or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at romikadesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and would be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@romikadesigns.com, or visit us on the web at romikadesigns.com.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Accelerated Graphics and Signs, 101 East Renfro, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, can handle all of your graphic needs. Need a banner or promotional products for your business? They got you covered. T-shirts and caps for your group. All you need to figure out is if you want them screen printed or embroidered. How about some slick graphics on that hot ride to make you stand out from the crowd? Accelerated Graphics and Signs can handle anything you throw at them. Located at 101 East Renfro Street, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, go in and see them. Call them at 817-991-0523 or reach them on the web at www.acceleratedgraphics.net. They are loud and proud and want to serve you. Accelerated Graphics.
Out of deck carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleburne, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleburne, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they've got you covered. When you're hungry for tender brisket or some delicious homemade cobbler, then look no further than Leach Brothers Barbecue, located at 1106 East Henderson, Cleburne, Texas. Leach Brothers has been family owned and operated since 1950. Take it from me, Taco Joe Orwinski. Todd and his family have been filling my belly breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a long time. Heck, I even have my own booth, open Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Come see them for dine-in, carry-out, and all your catering needs.
Joco Community Radio. Listen live at jococommunityradio.com.
When I get home, baby, gonna light your fire. All day been thinking about you, baby, you're my one desire. Gonna wrap my arms around you, hold you close to me. Oh, baby, wanna taste your lips, I wanna feel your own fantasy. Yeah. Don't know what I'd do without you. Don't know where I'd be. You're not just another lover, no, you're everything to me. Every time I'm with you, baby, can't believe it's true. When you're laying in my arms and you do the things you do, you can see it in my eyes, I can feel it in your touch. You don't have to say a thing, just let me show you how much love you, need you, yeah. I wanna kiss you all over and over and again. I wanna kiss you all over till the night closes in, till the night closes in. No one else could ever make me feel the way you do. Keep on loving, baby, and I'll keep loving you. It's easy to see when something's right or wrong. So stay with me, baby, and hold me all night long. So show me everything you do. 'Cause baby, no one does it quite like you. Love you, hold you, feel you, yeah. I wanna kiss you all over and over and again. I wanna kiss you all over till the night closes in, till the night closes in. Stay with me, lay with me, holding me, loving you, baby. Here with me, near with me, feeling you close to me, baby. Show me everything you do. 'Cause no one does it quite like you do. Love you, mean you. I wanna kiss you all over and over and again. I wanna kiss you all over till the night closes in, 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 till the night closes in. She's got a voice just like an angel. Must have heard when she fell right to the ground. She's got a touch as sweet as chocolate. Every time she comes around, but now she takes his hand and she says, I've never felt this way before. Could this be it? Like that time we were dancing barefoot out in the rain, like driving fast, going 95, trying to beat the train. Waking up and holding hands with the love of your life. It's that feeling you get each time when I look into your eyes. Well, some time goes by, and they said I do, and they settled down in a little town to have a kid or two. They're still going strong each and every day. The way she looks at him will never fade away. But now she takes his hand, he can see it in her eyes. It's that fire burning deep down inside, like that feeling of dancing barefoot out in the rain, like driving fast, going 95, trying to beat the train. Waking up and holding hands in the love of your life. It's that feeling you get each time when I look into your eyes. Now some years went by and the memories came, and now her auburn hair is slowly turned to gray. She still looks at him the same old way, like she did back in their young and wilder days. But now she takes his hand as he slowly fades away. Well, she said, look at me like you did in those days, like that time we were dancing barefoot out in the rain, like driving fast, going 95, trying to beat the train. Waking up and holding hands in the love of your life. Well, it's that feeling you get each time when I look into your eyes. When I look into your eyes. When I look into your eyes. When I look into your eyes.
Oh, well, I walk these streets alone, in the dark and in the cold. I don't mind, kinda like it. My empty pockets told me so. I got markings on my body, the brand of a life that just won't go. I don't mind, kinda like it. Guess you gotta reap just what you sow. and I breathe fire just to see into the night. Take it all, take it now. I don't need it anyhow. And if I give it all away, that's a means to an end, as they say. I don't care, it's all the same. I take your money and I play a game. Take your money, take your money, baby. Take your money, oh yeah, yeah. Play a game. There's a darkness in this town. Breathe it in, can you feel it now? All around you, in your lungs, a million voices speaking different tongues. And I guess I'm just immune to it, 'cause I've lived my life confined by it. Slam your window, break your wall, running fast yet nothing falls. Take your money, lose my pride. Yes, it's all in good time. Take a walk, clear my head. I look up at the sky and I wish I was dead. Ain't no mercy in this game. Ain't no win as to how we play. You breathing fast, I'm breathing slow, and I count as the seconds go. Where's your heart? Where's your mind? This ain't what it means to have no good time. Take your money, I lose my pride. I don't show my face, but I'll never hide. Take your money, oh baby, I take your money. Take your money, oh, when I lose my pride, lose it, yeah. Lose it, baby. Well, I walk these streets alone, in the dark and in the cold. I don't mind, kinda like it. My empty pockets told me so. Well, I walk these streets alone, in the dark and in the cold. I don't mind, kinda like it. My empty pockets told me so. Oh yeah. What they told me so.
I've been watching you all night long from across the bar. Every guy that hits on you has been wrong so far. Blowing smoke, buying you drinks of this and that. I'm pretty sure I know what you need. As a matter of fact, can I buy you a country song? Not a sad one of love gone wrong. Let you smile when you turn it on. Can I buy you a country song? Ain't gonna get us a drink just yet. I'm not not a gambler, but I'm willing to bet that neither one of us should be alone if I buy you a country song. Just like me, I know you can't believe that we're in this place. The guy on stage is talking way too fast and there's too much bass. Let's go find a bar with a steel guitar and you can sing along. Can I buy you a country song? Not a sad one of love gone wrong. Makes you smile when you turn it on. Can I buy you a country song? Ain't gonna get us a drink just yet. I'm not a gambler, but I'm willing to bet that neither one of us should be alone if I buy you a country song. Here we are in a brand new bar, putting money in the jukebox. 823, that's double D, and that's country. Can I buy you a country song? Not a sad one of love gone wrong. Makes you smile when you turn it on. Can I buy you a country song? Ain't gonna get us a drink just yet. I'm not a gambler, but I'm willing to bet that neither one of us should be alone. Can I buy you a country song?
All the time. I listen all day, every day. I don't know. I'm just addicted to it.
The voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.